I have conquered self-doubt and seized personal growth. Welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's review for Star Trek Lower Decks, Season 4, Episode 7, A Few Badgeys More. This video is a part of a series of videos where I review episodes of Lower Decks, so I have to start with the spoiler warning for Star Trek Lower Decks, up to Season 4, Episode 7. If you have not seen up to this point, you will not want to watch this video, otherwise some things will be spoiled for you. So, if you're familiar with my channel, you would know I'm not a fan of Badgey. I really hated Badgey in the first couple appearances. I believe it was Season 1. And I wasn't, and they hinted at Badgey returning at the end of Season 3 in a post-credit scene, and I was like, oh god, not Badgey again. And also I wasn't that big of a fan of Peanut Hamper. I didn't really like what they did with her. I was okay with her in the first episode that she appeared in, but I actually kind of liked her in that first episode. But then in the second episode she appeared in last season, where they gave her own full episode, I was on board with it at first until they revealed that she was just evil again for no good reason, and that really kind of pissed me off. And so I wasn't the biggest fan of Peanut Hamper either. But on the other hand, Artemis, voiced by Jeffrey Combs, I loved to death. Loved this character and was just itching to see this character again. I thought that with the episode he appeared in was one of my favorite episodes of the show, and I thought he was hilarious. So, you can tell that I would have mixed feelings about an episode that focuses on those three characters. One I really hate, one I'm not that on board with, especially what they did with her last time, and one I actually really loved. And I guess I'll talk about the Peanut Hamper and Artemis storyline first, because I actually really liked what they did with these characters. First of all, we get some really hilarious jokes with Artemis like turning himself blue. He's like, look, I'm friendly looking, and I love how every time he turns himself blue, he goes like he's struggling to do it, and he like turns blue, and he's like, look, and he talks to Boimler. He's like, look, I'm blue, aren't I friendly? So yeah, there were definitely some hilarious moments in there, and I do like, and another good line of the episode is when the first Captain Freeman gives the mission for, and it's funny that they meet with the Lower Decks specifically and give them their mission, particularly tell Tendi and Boimler to go to the Daystrom Institute on Earth. And I love one of the best lines is when they're leaving, and Mariner says to him, oh, have fun with the evil robots that are definitely not trying to trap you. And then Tendy's just like, oh, thanks. And they go off. And then we get the scene with Peanut Hamper and Artemis sort of planning out their deception and what their evil plan, evil scheme is. And, I love seeing as I mentioned in my intro, alluded to in my intro, the sort of therapy session that they would have, therapy sessions for these evil robots, and they would be watching movies and stuff. Yeah, this was hilarious. And it was kind of funny how, Boimler, the whole time that he was being held captive by Artemis, kind of was just doing it on purpose. That he could have gotten away from Artemis at any time, but he was trying to get the intel about the Binars. So let me backtrack about the Binars. Because I just recently covered the episode 11001001, on my channel, and I was talking about the Binars, and I was wondering if they've appeared in any other episodes outside of that episode. But I looked it up, and this is the first episode they actually made an appearance on. A flashback to 11001001 was seen in the clip show episode Shades of Grey, but that doesn't count. And apparently there were several episodes of Lower Decks where you saw a painting or a photograph of Binars, but you didn't actually see the Binars. So this is actually the first time they make an actual, appearance that's not just a picture of them since the first episode, 11001001. And it was interesting getting that being is another scene of this ship that we're beginning all season that's been attacking random ships. And then you just see the Binars going around speaking to each other. And Binar speaking, you have no idea what the hell they're saying. So I don't think it was as interesting as some of the other clips, because of course they have no idea what the hell they're saying to each other. But yeah, I thought it was just cool to finally see the Binars again, and wondering if we're gonna see more of them in the future. But anywho, so yeah, back to sort of Artemis and Peanut Hamper. There were some good jokes with, because Artemis was definitely sort of obsessing over Peanut Hamper, and it was really sad that she didn't come to see him. And I like how, he took over this planet, which seemed like, a big traumatizing deal for this planet to be taken over by a supercomputer. Yet Boimler was like, oh yeah, sure, it's not like Starfleet definitely couldn't undo this within an hour. I mean, could they though? It seems like he's being a bit flippant about this, and it was kind of a big deal that he just let this happen just so he could get this intel. But you had some funny moments within that. But then they actually do find what happened to Peanut Hamper, and she apparently believed her confessions speech so much she decided that she wanted to go home to her exocomp family. Now, why do all of our exocomps just beep and boop where she actually talks like a human? Maybe she's a more advanced, newer version, I suppose. But yeah, in the original episode of TNG, Quality of Life. I was going to say Quality of Mercy, but that's Stranger Worlds episode, Quality of Life. The exocomps, the only one the exocomps appeared in before Lower Decks, they just beep as well. They don't talk. And so Peanut Hamper is weird. So all these exocomps actually just beep, and like the original ones. But whatever. Here's my issue with this, and it stems from the last episode in season 3, which I stand by was one of the worst episodes of Lower Decks. Really did not like that episode, mainly because they had this whole redemption arc, this whole character story for Peanut Hamper, and at the end of it they were just like, psych, she's just as evil and despicable as you always thought. Now all of a sudden she turns good? Really? Now, just for no reason, when you do this whole redemption arc about her like falling in love and making a home at this new like bird world, and then just for the end to be like, nah, just kidding, she's still evil and conniving. And then all of a sudden she's like, they're like do the opposite in this episode, where like, oh, she's evil and she's planning the downfall, and then just kidding, she's good again. That annoys me. That does annoy me. So the Peanut Hamper side of thing, yeah, that part bothered me a lot. But I love Artemis. And I love by the that he actually turns kind of good by the end of it because of Peanut Hamper and generally wants to be with her. And it showed when he conquered that world and was being evil, he felt empty inside and it wasn't fulfilling. And it wasn't until like he was with Peanut Hamper that it felt fulfilling, and so he turned blue for real. You notice this time when he turned blue, he didn't like make that noise like he was struggling to do it. It was like came natural. That's funny. That red signifies evil, but blue means he's good. But yeah, so that was cool. And then they had some funny scenes with him talking to... I can't remember what the other robot was that said, "I've conquered self-death." Was that like Lord Killikiss or something like that? And he was talking to him and he was like, "Soon I will be with my friend and we will live together happily." Oh, Jesus. I love those evil robots. Thing is so awesome. Anyway, so yes, that part was cool. Now let me get to the Badgey part of it. I will say this. I didn't totally and completely hate Badgey in this episode as I did in his previous appearance. It just annoyed me before where it like the jokes about, you know, it was obviously making fun of Clippy or whatever. It was like this helpful tutor, so all of a sudden, "I'm gonna kill you." It just felt, I don't know, dumb. But this episode didn't bother me as much because they kind of already established this character and as just being this evil character that like wants to. Rutherford always has like these things he creates that call him father and want to kill him. But anyway, so yeah, so he has daddy issues and wants to kill Rutherford, and I kind of like what they did with Badgey sort of splitting in two whenever Rutherford tries to confuse his program. Like when the first thing he did was to hug him instead of to try to fight him, and that was caught him off guard. And part of him actually wanted that love and loved him. And Badgey's response was to expel that part of him. And so then you get Gucci. And then later, Rutherford's tactic was to appeal to his logic, which was working. And so then Badgey expelled the logic part of him, and then you got Logic-y, which I thought was kind of funny. Logic-y. And then later he did kill Logic-y, and it was like, oh, not cool. So that was okay. Like, I thought the storyline, like, didn't like this one nearly as much as the other storyline, but I didn't hate it either. It was fine. Like, there were some parts of it that were kind of funny, and it didn't really bother me the way that Badgey's previous appearance bothered me. Like, yeah, I thought that was kind of cool, that the Logic-y and Gucci or whatever. And I also like how at the start when Mariner went with Rutherford and he was just like, "Why are you coming with me?" or whatever. And she's like, "No, we stick together." She's like, "Well, so what's your plan?" He's like, "My plan is really just to kill myself." And she's like, "Oh, no, maybe I shouldn't have come then." And then you had a couple of lines from Mariner that were quite funny as well while they were there. But the whole thing with Badgey sort of uploading himself to like becoming all of Starfleet and becoming everything and everywhere, but that causes him to like be enlightened and ascend and not really care about not be evil anymore, because he's like moved beyond that now and he's like become this omniscient god. He wants to go hang out with the Q Continuum, and of course he sees the koala. I do like the appearance of the koala. That's a nice running joke. I don't like the reference to the Black Mountain, though, and the less said about that, the better. But I do like the reference to the koala. And that was cool. So I did like that. But I don't know. Was it really cool? It was kind of dumb, actually. I like the koala, but the whole thing of Badgie ascending and becoming better, I don't know. That was just a bit too much for me. And then Rutherford hanging out with Goodgie at the end and everyone else being scared of him, but Rutherford being totally cool with that. Let me make one thing abundantly clear. I hope we don't see Goodgie again. I really don't want to see Goodgie, and especially if Goodgie turns evil. I guess it would become Badgie again. Definitely don't want to see that. So that whole storyline was a bit so-so, I guess. So anyway, my rating for A Few Badgeys More out of 10. This is tough. This is a tough one to rate because I have really mixed feelings about this one. I think I'm going to go with the 7. Very good. Part of me wants to give it an 8 just because of the Artemis stuff and the evil robot jokes, which I loved. I laughed at this hilariously. Like, I've conquered self-doubt. like, that is so funny. But, even that storyline, as I said, the peanut hamper element where, she had this whole redemption arc that went nowhere and now she's just turned good out of nowhere, it kind of bothers me. And the whole Badgie thing, again, I didn't totally hate it, like I was on board with some of the logic-y and stuff like that. It was kind of funny. But kind of funny, not really funny. Most of it was kind of, I don't know, kind of skippable. Kind of like, okay, they're doing this Badgie thing, at least it doesn't totally suck, but it's still... And it was also kind of silly at the end when he ascended or whatever, but I did like seeing the koala. So, I think 7 is a good rating for this episode as a whole. If I was just talking about seeing Artemis again and hearing Jeffrey Combs voice him, that goes more of a 9. But the episode as a whole, I'll give a 7. So anyway, that is it for my review of A Few Badgeys More. I also shall be back next week and every week here that after to cover Lower Decks for the rest of its run. And you can check out my channel as I cover many other shows and many other Star Trek shows, covering Star Trek Next Generation, episode by episode at the moment, and many more videos as well. So be sure to subscribe so you can keep up with all of that. And thanks a lot for watching.